I see a light reflection, refraction isn't nothing more than a chemical reaction. It flickers and grows, nobody knows how much we feel, how quickly it goes. Turn off the dark and vanquish the night. Show the whole world for 8 days of twilight. Then and now they fought and we fight, fight for the right to live by our own light. Let me see the light, give me something to live by. Let me see the light, I need something to live by. Help me see myself in my reflection. Shine to the light. Let me shed the light in each direction. Shining bright, I wanna see the light. A million times the speed of sound, fast enough to go around the world that we live in, so much cold and strife. One little light to warm another life, for the darkest night with the brightest light. 'Cause it's time for you to shine. A little dedication, small illumination, just one person to change a whole nation. Let me see the light, give me something to live by. Let me see the light, I need something to live by. Help me see myself in my reflection. Shine to the light. Whoa, let me shed the light in each direction. Shining bright, I wanna see the light. Is the spark that we sing of anything, hiding somewhere in between everything? Let the colors burn in a brilliant burst, like a shooting star falling to the earth. Whoa, help me see myself in my reflection. Shine tonight. Let me shed the light in each direction. Shining bright.
I hope that they will continue my story.
I can't believe I'm here.
Greetings, Ocean County. My name is Shelley Newman, and it is my pleasure with Fran Gimple to chair this year's Community of Caring event. I also want to thank Annabelle Lindenbaum and Lauren Rosen for serving on our committee. Each year, the Jewish Federation highlights those people who make an important difference to the Jewish and the broader community in Ocean County. We want to do our part to encourage and build a caring community and believe it is important to do Hakarat HaTov, recognizing the good people and good deeds that help make this possible. This also happens to serve as our Federation's annual meeting, so we have a little business to be done at the end of this program. This year, especially given the rise in hate in our community, whether anti-Semitism or racism or bigotry. We are proud to honor several local heroes against hate. More on that in a minute, but first, I'd like to introduce Annabelle Lindenbaum, Board Chair of the Jewish Federation. Annabelle?
Good evening. Thank you, Shelley. I also want to thank the committee for your hard work. I want to congratulate tonight's honorees, and I want to thank all of you participating and watching this event virtually. It takes everybody to contribute, each in his or her own way, to truly make this a caring community. I want to share some words about the Jewish Federation. Jewish federations across the country provide a vital role encouraging and directing donor support to meet the needs of their local communities. In Ocean County, we have been focusing our efforts and expanding what we do to meet challenges and gaps in our community. Before COVID, we hosted several community events a year, and we hope to return to that one day soon. But in the interim, we have expanded our education and community building efforts online. Just look at our program tonight. Our Jewish Family and Children's Services program is a lifeline to local Holocaust survivors and seniors who need help, as well as dozens of others served by counseling, caregiver support, and bereavement groups. We have also stepped up to provide grants to help the hungry and needy in Ocean County through Fulfill, Monmouth and Ocean County's Food Bank, and the Joel E. Perlmutter Memorial Food Pantry, as well as Kosher Meals on Wheels, around the world and in Israel. We give ongoing support to the JDC and the Jewish Agency to help Jews who are vulnerable and at risk. And we have given grants to help children with special needs in Israel. The Jewish community is about looking out for each other, and we ensure that the Ocean County Jewish community does our part. We also provide PJ Library with free Jewish books and music to hundreds of kids and families locally, and publish the Jewish Journal every month. I'll save some of our newer efforts countering hate for later in the program, but the bottom line is that we do some very important and worthwhile stuff. And we can't do it without your support. So, as we get to the end of the year, if you haven't yet given, or even if you have, this is a great opportunity for you to contribute and make a real difference, especially this year before those extra tax benefits run out. Please show your support. And with that, I want to introduce Fran Gimple to share more about our Heroes Against Hate.
Thank you, Annabelle. What is a hero against hate? A hero against hate is someone who sees a wrong and steps up to call it out and fix the situation. This can mean countering hate or bigotry through individual action or initiating programs or activities to encourage standing up to hate. This can also mean educating the community, especially younger audiences, about tolerance, diversity, and respect for differences. A hero against hate steps up to respond to a crisis or an incident of hate, such as anti-Semitism, racism, bigotry, or bias, and they work to build bridges between the different groups in our community, especially those where there may be differences or lack of understanding. We all know and see some of these issues in Ocean County, and we reached out throughout the community to identify and highlight some local heroes who should be recognized and serve as examples and role models for others. Hatred, anti-Semitism, bigotry, and racism can only survive when bystanders look aside. It is our pleasure to recognize and present awards to the following upstanders in our community who did the opposite.
Tova Hershkowitz founded One Ocean County, an organization that works to build bridges between the diverse cultural groups that reside in Ocean County. This will soon be recognized as a new 501c3 nonprofit. The mission of One Ocean County is to foster dialogue and positive interaction between the region's Orthodox Jewish community and their neighbors. We have all seen the concern, confusion, misinformation, and even anti-Semitism, which has resulted from the growth of the Lakewood Jewish community. This makes the need for Tova's work in One Ocean County even more important, promoting a diverse but mutually respectful Ocean County where everyone feels connected, celebrated, and valued. This past year, Tova created Common Grounds, a community garden, to create a space and project to bring people together, and is working to promote other collaborative projects in the area. We are proud to recognize Tova and the bridges she is building in our community. Tova?
I think the single biggest thing that any one of us can do is to be an educated consumer and not to believe everything we read or hear on social media or from other people, and try to do the research and find out, is it true what they're saying about this other group, and ask someone who's actually part of that group in a respectful way, or read a book, or read something or from an authoritative voice from inside that community to find out if what you're hearing is actually true, or are these just rumors that are fueled by hate.
Chief Mitch Little started Toms River United with one thing in mind: building bridges within our community. He wanted to help people understand one another and to recognize that we may have differences, we have more in common than not. Toms River United brought together leaders, some official, some not so official, in the community to help discuss ways we could expand the idea that we all need to get along, and to especially bring that message to young people. This culminated in the Around the World in Toms River Festival, which this year was combined with National Night Out, further expanding the audience. Chief Little also marched with the protesters in the wake of George Floyd murder to demonstrate solidarity of the police department with the citizens of Toms River, and has spearheaded many community policing programs, such as Bigs in Blue and the Community Outreach Program, where officers visit classrooms throughout the district and interact in a positive way with young children. We are proud to recognize the important work Chief Little has done and does every day in Toms River. Chief?
Good evening, and thank you to the Jewish Federation for this great honor. One of the things I think we can do to combat any kind of racism or bigotry would be to let everybody realize that we're more alike, that we're different, that we're all human. And one thing I even tell my officers is figuratively close your eyes and judge people by their behavior alone, and stop putting labels on people. And I think that would be the best we could do, is just to remove those labels and treat everybody by their behavior. If they're good people, they're just good people, regardless of any race or culture or religion that we come from. And I think that's been working for us, and I appreciate everybody's hard work in doing that.
Bahia Abdullah serves as president of the Toms River branch of the NAACP. In recent years, the NAACP has focused on ending voter suppression, especially leading up to the last presidential election, by urging people to exercise their right to participate in the democratic process. She is the go-to person for media when racism raises its ugly head in Ocean County, as demonstrated in the past few elections. She and the NAACP work hard to deal with the stresses and challenges felt by many minority school children in a predominantly white student body. No child should be afraid of going to school, she said. A retired Girl Scout professional for 33 years, Abdullah has impacted the lives of countless girls and women in Monmouth and Ocean counties as a chief mission officer for Girl Scouts of the Jersey Shore. Bahia is a tireless advocate for civil rights, social justice, children, arts, and history. She volunteers for a host of national, state, regional, and local organizations that support these efforts. We are proud to recognize Bahia and the NAACP as a hero against hate. Bahia?
The single most important thing that we can do to counter bigotry and racism is to educate ourselves about others. It's important for people to be upstanders. If it can happen to one, it can happen to all.
Sophie Braun is a junior at Westfield High School in Westfield, New Jersey, with local ties as a member of the JCC of LBI. She's a dedicated activist and hard-working student and passionate about social justice. Sophie is a leader in her school community for combating discrimination through the No Place for Hate program, Religion and Allyship Subcommittee. In her role, Sophie organized and led the first community-wide discussion on the ongoing anti-Semitism in the Westfield community, with a focus on the community's responsibility to take action. This included giving a presentation and facilitating breakout sessions of students, parents, staff, and community members. Sophie has led classroom discussions tackling challenging issues of hatred and bias. For Jewish American Heritage Month, Sophie created an interactive display case capturing No Place for Hate stance against anti-Semitism, together with an appreciation for a range of Jewish cultures. Sophie is also a journalism intern for the local Tapintu.net online newspaper, for which she covers social justice issues among other topics. Sophie continues to structure and encourage inclusive conversations on difficult topics as she strives to be a positive role model for her peers and community. We are proud of what Sophie has accomplished so far and look forward to much more from her in the future. Sophie?
From my experience, there is so much work to be done that it's hard to identify one single most important thing. An overarching theme that I think needs significant focus is greater education and awareness of the spectrum of biases and how marginalized individuals are impacted by discrimination. If individuals would be open and willing to engage in uncomfortable conversations rather than ignoring the issues and thinking that this doesn't affect me, we would be in a much better place. Uncomfortable conversations about hatred and discrimination are not easy, but these types of conversations move us forward, even if in the moment they feel like a step or two back. I've recently realized, after 3 more independent anti-Semitic incidents at my school in the past 2 weeks, that we cannot change everyone's perspective. But there is strength in numbers. We can focus on empowering those around us who are of similar resolve to become actively engaged in fighting hatred, taking actual steps towards heightened awareness and improved education of bias and discrimination.
Randy Bergman is a well-known name at the Jersey Shore, with people reading his byline in the local news for almost 20 years. He was responsible for the daily editorial and op-ed pages of the Asbury Park Press and the Sunday at Issue section, which runs in all the Gannett-owned New Jersey newspapers. Prior to joining the Asbury Park Press in 2002, he was a national editor for the Associated Press in New York City. While in his role at the Asbury Park Press, Randy saw the increasing concern from many in our area about the growth of the Orthodox community in Lakewood and the resulting often bigoted and anti-Semitic responses from people about a group they didn't fully understand. He has played an important role in expanding coverage and educating about the issues and the people. Randy recognizes that it is important to not just take in and reiterate what you hear, but to get beneath the surface and make sure you understand what is really playing out, and to call out bad behavior and issues of concern, no matter how seemingly justified. It is for these reasons why we are proud to recognize Randy as a hero against hate. Randy?
If I had to single out just one thing that I considered most important to combating anti-Semitism and bigotry in all its forms, I think it would be the need for civic and religious organizations to create opportunities for those of diverse backgrounds to engage with one another at events geared specifically for the purpose of creating face-to-face contact and conversation. Enabling people of different faiths and ethnicities to interact and to get to know each other as individuals, I think, is the best way of breaking down barriers, overcoming stereotypes, and creating at least some level of understanding. This can be accomplished through any number of existing organizations, such as Ocean County One, and perhaps by creating new entities that can bring together diverse groups on the basis of shared interests, and there are many of them: sports, arts, civic service, philanthropy, even religion.
I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our heroes against hate. They embody what it means to be an upstander, not to stand by when they see something that needs to be called out or fixed. We had members of the Jewish community, the broader community, all ages represented. I am very proud of our Jewish Federation for recognizing this important issue and honoring these individuals and organizations. We also have some special remarks from one of our awardees, Randy Bergman. As mentioned in his introduction, Randy has a unique perspective on hate in all its forms in Ocean County. We have the privilege of hearing some of that perspective now. It is my pleasure to introduce Randy Bergman.
I've been asked to share my perspective on the problem of anti-Semitism and the tensions between the Orthodox and the non-Orthodox in Ocean County. I've been able to observe it as a journalist, as co-founder of a group dedicated to improving relations between the two groups, and as a resident of a town, Jackson, that is concerned about the impact the growing number of Orthodox residents moving to the community will have. I try to come at this as an objective observer. I have taken positions that have supported and run counter at various times to both the Orthodox and the non-Orthodox. I've always looked for common ground and for fair and just solutions to the problems. Just by way of background, I'm what I would call a non-practicing Protestant. Growing up, I was baptized in a Methodist church. I attended Lutheran and Congregational churches along the way, and I was married in a Presbyterian church. I spent most of my early years in Westfield, a relatively affluent and diverse community. Several of my friends were Jewish, though not Orthodox, and my best friend then and now is Jewish. But until the last few years, I knew very little about the Orthodox. That changed dramatically when, while at the press, I arranged and publicized so-called listening sessions for readers in some of our towns, including Toms River and Jackson. I wanted to learn more about what was on people's minds and solicit suggestions for ways the press could be more relevant and responsive to the needs of the community. I anticipated complaints about property taxes, traffic, underfunded schools, inadequate coverage of the environment and local government. And there was some of that, but mostly what I heard were complaints from and about the Orthodox community. Our coverage, I was told by the Orthodox, was slanted against them. It was too focused on the negative, which led to an inaccurate portrayal of the Orthodox, feeding into the negative stereotypes. The non-Orthodox complained that the Orthodox received preferential treatment for politicians, that the Orthodox were insular and only interested in themselves, and that they had destroyed Lakewood and now were on their way to taking over and destroying neighboring towns. I wasn't surprised to hear some of those complaints. What did surprise me was the intensity and the way the topic dominated the conversations. I was at Toms River listening session when I met Tova Herskovitz, who did an outstanding job of articulating her views and the need to combat anti-Semitism and to explore ways to help the Orthodox and non-Orthodox better understand one another. We later decided to set up another series of meetings with members of the Orthodox community, and it was out of those meetings that the Unity Project was born. The project accomplished a lot during its relatively short duration. We held sponsored events such as a challah bake and a craft event, held videotaped panel discussions that were posted at app.com, along with commentary and video interviews with people knowledgeable about the Orthodox religion and the sources of tension in Lakewood area communities. How much did we achieve? Based on the feedback I received, I know it went a long way toward improving Orthodox leaders' attitudes towards the press, and in at least a small way through the efforts of Unity Project volunteers and the Unity Project content that was posted on the press website, and even the relationships formed among Unity Project committee members and volunteers. It brought an important sliver of the community closer together. The Unity Project section of APP.com, by the way, is still on the site. If you are interested in looking at it, just put Unity Project Bergman in the search field. What more can be done today to improve relations between the Orthodox and non-Orthodox? Plenty. The Unity Project left much work undone. Before the pandemic struck, we had planned, among other things, a forum on the Holocaust, understanding which I believe is essential to understanding the worldview of the Orthodox. We were in the planning stages for a concert with Shalem Lemmer, who was the first Orthodox Jew to get a major label recording contract. We were in conversations with Georgian Court University about developing a student recognition program in the arts for Orthodox and public school students. And we also had met with Jackson school officials to discuss ways to bring Orthodox and non-Orthodox students together. My own sense is that the concerns raised in Jackson and Toms River about the Orthodox moving into their communities stem not so much from anti-Semitism, but from the insularity, perceived and real, of the Orthodox that threatens to turn one large community into two separate communities, one for the Orthodox and one for everyone else. Unless the Orthodox are willing to participate on some level with that larger community, fear and resistance to the Orthodox moving into their town will continue. With a concerted effort by civic and religious leaders in the Orthodox and non-Orthodox communities, I think substantial progress can be made, but there is much work left to be done. The end of the Unity Project has not ended the commitment of Tova and I and other volunteers to move forward. In closing, I would just like to thank the Jewish Federation for honoring me with the Hero Against Hate Award. It is one I will cherish. I would also like to thank all the wonderful people connected with the Unity Project who offered their ideas and gave of their time to help us achieve our important goals. My work to improve relations between the Orthodox and non-Orthodox has been and continues to be very important to me, and I am beyond thrilled to see my efforts being recognized by this award. Thank you.
I want to thank Randy for sharing those words with us. There is much to absorb and take to heart. It is now my pleasure to introduce Acting Attorney General Andrew Bruck. General Bruck was appointed by Governor Murphy in July of 2021. General Bruck had previous roles in the Attorney General's office, and before that spent 5 years at the U.S. Department of Justice, where he served as an assistant U.S. attorney in Newark, New Jersey. He also worked in the New York office of Davis, Polk, and Wardwell, and clerked for Chief Justice Stuart Rabner of the New Jersey Supreme Court. A graduate of Princeton University and Stanford Law School, Bruck is a New Jersey native who currently resides in Trenton with his husband Adam and daughter Libby. Bruck is the first member of the LGBTQ+ community to serve as New Jersey's Chief Law Enforcement Officer. We are honored to have the Attorney General join us and share these remarks.
Hi everyone, Andrew Bruck here, the Acting Attorney General of New Jersey. It's a pleasure to join the Jewish Federation of Ocean County in recognizing 5 inspiring individuals and organizations for their efforts to eradicate hate and bigotry in their communities. I'd like to congratulate and thank Randy Bergman, co-founder of the Unity Project, Sophie Braun, a North Jersey student and member of the Jewish Community Center of Long Beach Island, Tova Herskovitz of One Ocean County, Chief Mitch Little of the Toms River Police Department, and the Toms River NAACP for being exceptional, bold leaders and true heroes in this fight against hate. As New Jersey's acting Attorney General and the state's chief law enforcement officer, I've seen the pain and the harm caused by anti-Semitism in our state. Even in 2020, after the Jersey City kosher supermarket attack drew the world's attention to this issue, New Jersey nonetheless experienced 298 reported acts of anti-Semitic harassment, assault, or vandalism. These numbers are simply unacceptable, and they demand our full attention. So let me be clear. Anti-Semitism and hate of any kind is not and will never be tolerated in this state. Here in the Murphy administration, we're committed to using every tool and resource at our disposal to tackle this problem. And we're doing that right here in Ocean County. Whether that means calling attention to a hateful anti-Semitic page on Facebook, or taking legal action against towns that use their zoning authority to make life harder for Orthodox Jews. In recent years, we've strengthened our ability to investigate bias incidents and bias crimes. For example, we require that whenever one of our state's 500 law enforcement agencies learn of a bias incident, they must report it to our office, and then we use this data to ensure these matters are being handled appropriately and thoroughly. To make things even easier for residents, in 2020, we launched an online portal so anyone who believes that they have been subject to discrimination or bias in New Jersey can report it on our website. You can find it at bias.njcivilrights.gov. Although our work is not complete until we secure justice and fair treatment for all people, I am proud of our progress, and even prouder to have members like the 5 honorees we are recognizing today as part of the New Jersey community. We'll continue working together until we eradicate hate and anti-Semitism and create a New Jersey that is welcoming for all of our residents. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Keith Kravitsky, and I'm the Managing Director of the Jewish Federation. I want to thank all of our speakers for their remarks tonight. There were really important messages to hear, and I also want to congratulate all of our Heroes Against Hate honorees. I believe we all recognize the importance of shining a light in the dark and calling out hate in all its forms whenever we see it. And even more importantly, encouraging people to step up and work together to combat hate. This is not just a problem of the Jewish community, or the Black community, or the LGBTQ community, or whatever particular group is being targeted. The only way to make a real, lasting difference in fighting hate is when people who aren't directly affected come together to say enough. There is no room for hate in our communities, among our friends, or among our family. Standing up against hate is something that can be taught, and we are very proud to announce that the Jewish Federation, along with partners in the community, are launching a pilot program to expand education and engagement in schools among students and parents here in Ocean County. I will turn to our partners in a few moments, but watch this video clip. It really tells the story of what's going on and what we need to fight in a concrete way.
Good evening. My name is Alan Katz, and I'm delighted to see you here for tonight's panel, The Rise of Anti-Semitism on the Left and the Right.
I'm the granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor, and I'm an American. I'm a very proud American. And I would say that, like a lot of American Jews, I think I feel both very grateful to this country and also very responsible for the ways in which it's failed certain minority groups.
The reason I was so thrilled to agree to participate in this discussion is that it's an opportunity to come together to have a rational conversation about a really important topic without grandstanding, without yelling, without the kinds of things that happen all too often in Washington these days.
the really big structural shifts that are happening around the world, big economic shifts, shifts in information technologies, shifts that are leading to the movement of different kinds of people, and that those big shifts end up manifesting in people's lives, causing a lot of fear and anxiety, and some of the ways in which that fear and anxiety manifests is in the form of racisms like anti-Semitism.
Here in this really beautiful train station where there's an exhibit on Auschwitz, and there's a poll done, I think the Claims Conference did a poll just within the past year or two that found that it was young people, millennials and Gen Z. More than 50% of them had never heard of Auschwitz. More than 60% of them had no idea that 6 million Jews perished in the Holocaust, and over 10% believed that Jews were responsible for the Holocaust.
I'm in 6th grade. I don't really know what the Holocaust is.
I'm 13 years old and I'm going to 8th grade. I didn't actually learn about it in school. I learned about it throughout the years on the internet.
We need to be just as serious about confronting the hatred of Jews, and we need to clearly confront it together wherever it comes from, and educate our friends, neighbors, and importantly the next generation about the threat that it poses not only to the Jewish community, but to our democratic ideals overall if we're not serious in this approach.
It's clear we have a growing problem in Ocean County and beyond, and we want to be part of the solution. That's why we are partnering with Change, the Center for Holocaust, Human Rights, and Genocide Education, which has a great track record at working with schools, teachers, and students to instill this idea of being an upstander and standing up to hate. Holocaust education is necessary but not sufficient. Fighting racism and promoting inclusion for any one particular group isn't enough. It takes a mosaic of people coming together, insisting on tolerance and respect for difference. That can make a real difference. Stay tuned for more information in the new year, but we are excited for this program, and we welcome your support and participation. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce Change.
Hi there, my name is Sarah Brown, and I am the Executive Director of the Center for Holocaust, Human Rights, and Genocide Education. For more than 40 years, Change has provided educational resources for teaching and learning about the Holocaust, modern instances of genocide, and human rights. And since transitioning to virtual platforms in March of 2020, we have provided more than 100 programs that have educated, inspired, and empowered over 67,000 people across 6 continents. We live in difficult times, politically charged and often fraught times, and we know firsthand the need for meaningful and impactful education about the Holocaust and genocide is all the more pressing today. The Jewish Federation of Ocean County and the Center for Holocaust, Human Rights, and Genocide Education refuse to lose hope or choose the path of inaction. We continue our work, bridging the gap between the lessons learned from survivors and their surviving generations and the lived experiences of current leaders, and perhaps even more important, the next generation of leaders sitting in our classrooms today. Change is proud to announce a new partnership with the Jewish Federation of Ocean County, designed to build multicultural respect and understanding, improve knowledge, attitudes, and behavior, and reduce racism, hate speech, and anti-Semitism. We are very excited to collaborate with the Jewish Federation of Ocean County on this pilot initiative, and we look forward to implementing educational programming, offering professional development workshops for educators, and empowering the Ocean County community. Thank you all for being here and for your support. Together, we will educate, inspire, and empower today's youth and tomorrow's leaders.
Our mission is to eliminate prejudice and biases of all kind.
In times of crises, we've managed to act in a meaningful and thoughtful way to meet the needs of students, of community members, of teachers.
When you think of the people who were murdered, it's not a time to get depressed. It's a time to say, what are we going to do about it so that it won't happen anywhere in the world to anybody?
This year, Colloquium is going virtual.
I wish we were all together at Brookdale College, but connecting virtually with me here in Murrayville, Tennessee is so cool.
I was 11 years old when I came to the United States as a refugee from a displaced persons camp.
This is my family for the genocide. It is the only picture actually we have left of my family.
Ruth was a nurse. I guess today we would call her an essential employee.
Armenian genocide survivors were provided access to Japan. The outcome for these refugees would have been completely different without Diana.
Marsha P. Johnson and her friend Sylvia Rivera were two trans women of color who were at the bar at the time.
I was less than 3 years old when my sister and I lost both of our parents.
Certain events are etched indelibly on my brain.
It is not always easy to tell the story.
What better time than now to perform those acts of kindness?
Thank you to Sarah and the team at Change. You do such important work, and we are very excited to be partnering with you in Ocean County. Now for something completely different, some Federation business in the part of our program that used to be billed as our annual meeting. I want to thank our board members and executive committee for their support this past year. I am pleased that our board will be continuing this coming year with the addition of Cantor Jake Greenberg, when we welcome you. Feel free to write your approval or any comments in the chat tonight. And if you or anyone you know is interested in getting involved, please let me know. Thank you again for joining us tonight. This was a rich, engaging, and important program. I hope you enjoyed it and appreciate the important work done by our Heroes Against Hate and the Jewish Federation. Thank you for your ongoing support, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Best for a great rest of your week, a good end to 2021, and a much better and healthier 2022. Good night.